Chapter 130. I do not desire of gold or jewels. If there's one thing I want, speak. As the sentence trailed off, Kishir, who responded as if pushing him to continue, turned to Revlin, who was filled with tension. I have always admired and desired to be part of the cavalry. The cavalry. Upon hearing those words, Kishir slightly raised an eyebrow, but the others did not. The unexpected request from Revlin caused the room to echo with hurried intakes of breath. Luzon was equally as incredulous. The scion of the dukedom wants to join the cavalry. Among the powerful nobles of the capital, there had not been a single awakened individual so far, yet the youngest of the Apeto family, one of the four great dukedoms, not only revealed himself as an awakener but also expressed his desire to join the cavalry created by Duke Peleta, a close confidant and kinsman of the emperor. Considering the cavalry's stark contrast to the nobility's image, it was a situation bound to surprise anyone. That's surprising. Are you serious? Yes, that's the only thing I desire. Revlin firmly stated he needed no other reward. Even those disinterested in the ways of the world knew of the ongoing conflict between the emperor and the four great dukedoms that had persisted for generations. Young Revlin Sean Apeto might have been ignorant of such political issues, but Kishir certainly was not. Thus, everyone thought that his request would surely be denied. Very well. However, Kishir Lahore once again easily overturned such assumptions. Promises should be kept. Are you serious? Honestly, your abilities are quite tempting. However, given that we have members who went through trials to join us, it might be difficult to accept you midway. How about we put you on the list as a temporary member until the next recruitment period for the cavalry? Without hesitation, Revlin answered loudly, Of course, that would be excellent. Then it's settled. Watching the conversation conclude so smoothly, Luzon found his mouth agape. Is it really okay to accept him so easily? From this moment, I, Kishir Lahore, announce that Revlin Sean Apeto is accepted as a temporary member of the cavalry. Wow! Wow! The people who had been making similar expressions as Luzon let out cheers as they belatedly heard Kishir's proclamation. Despite the slightly awkward atmosphere compared to before, most believed that Kishir had made a remarkable decision. What in the world is happening here? Yet the time of surprise and cheering were short-lived. With a shout from the elder priest Beltrail, who belatedly emerged from the depths of the temple, the square became as quiet as if doused with cold water. Beltrail, with his face severely frowned, appeared and went straight to his nephew Revlin without even greeting Duke Peleta. He raised his voice. What is the meaning of this, third prince of the Apeto family? Awakened and joining the cavalry? Surely I must have misheard. Uncle, Oh, the elder priest Beltrail Sean Apeto. Long time no see. Before a visibly stiffened Revlin could respond, Kishir intervened with a greeting. I was indeed curious as to what urgent matter could have prompted the person responsible for this incident to leave their post, but I'm glad to see you in good health. Normally, it was highly impolite to intrude on someone else's conversation, but no one here could afford to ignore the Duke of Paleta, the speaker. Beltrail, who had tried to pretend not to notice him, reluctantly twisted his lips and bowed his head. Yes, I did not expect Your Highness to come here in person. I am truly glad to see you well. Indeed, I also never dreamed I would be here. Just moments ago, I was talking with the emissaries on the Hill of Abundance, and suddenly there was chaos as if a great event had happened here. When I ran over here, it seemed your remarkable nephew had fortunately resolved the situation without any casualties. Kishir pointed slightly towards the hill visible from the square and smiled. It was fortunate indeed. I don't want to imagine what would have happened here without the ability Revlin possess. How happy I am that you have a nephew who is both talented and humble. Your Grace, it seems there is some misunderstanding. Beltrail forced a smile, glaring at Revlon, who stood next to him. When the incident occurred, I knew I could not solve it alone and immediately went to the temple for help. I am very pleased that the situation was resolved quickly in the meantime. However, I cannot comprehend what you said about the third prince. What is it you do not understand? To my knowledge, the third prince is not an awakener. At Beltrail's firm response, Kishir's smile deepened. What are you talking about? He himself admitted he was an awakener. Many people here saw him use his power. Someone else must have used their ability and he lied, saying it was his own. The third prince, since his childhood, due to his poor health, has occasionally been unable to distinguish between reality and fantasy. Do you think that makes sense? Kishir chuckled softly, looking at Beltrail, forcing the issue. However, no one who understood the hidden meaning could laugh. Beltrail was using one of the political rhetorics often employed by nobles. Even if it's a fact everyone knows, it's a powerful noble. If a powerful noble insists it's not a fact, it can officially be made non-existent. In other words, Beltrail intended to openly suppress the fact that Revlin was an awakener in front of Kishir. At this statement, revealing how lightly the members of the Duke's family, including Beltrail, took the Duke of Paleta, several people hardened their expressions. The Duke of Paleta, although his image has slightly changed since creating the cavalry, was still infamous for being a defective item. Revlin stepped into the tension of the critical moment. The boy who stood between his uncle and Kishir opened his mouth with a hardened expression and raised his voice so everyone could hear. Uncle, I'm an awakener and now I'm a member of the cavalry. Duke of Paleta, no, Commander, you personally permitted this. Why do you deny it now? Isn't it a good thing if I can save people with the power I possess? Third Prince, Beltrail called for Revlin with an icy face. Enough with the unwise remarks. Think of Duke Apeto and the second prince. But uncle, when I became awakened, given the state of your health, your solo appearance at the event seemed to have had a negative impact. It would be better for you to return home. With a swift cut-off of Revlin's words, Beltrail gestured, and the sturdy knights behind him grabbed the boy's shoulder. Uncle! Escort the third prince to the Apueto manor, quickly. Revlin struggled to break free from the knight's grip, but then a soft voice halted him. Revlin, you must be exhausted from dealing with the accident. For now, go back. Commander. Kishir lightly tapped the boy's shoulder with a smile. Regardless of what happened, the fact that you have already become a member of the cavalry hasn't changed. Didn't all these people see? I'll contact you later, so go back and rest easy. Though he seemed to be talking to Revlin, Kishir's red eyes remained fixated on Beltrail, the elder priest, without a hint of movement. Unaware of this, Revlin vanished, led by the knights after murmuring a choked plea for future contact. Did you really have to do this? It's a shame that you, elder priest, seem to misunderstand me and my cavalry. After Revlin's disappearance, a bitter chill blew between Beltrail and Kishir. All wore smiles, yet their eyes were as icy as frost. I will contact Duke Apeto about this matter promptly. I will also watch how you handle and take responsibility for the incident that occurred at today's event. Only upon hearing these words did Beltrail, the elder priest, remember his duty to handle the aftermath of the incident at the sharing of the Sacred Flame event. His expression subtly shifted. Did he forget? Was he more preoccupied with proving his nephew isn't the awakened? Observing this, Lusan sniffed, feeling anew that ordinary people like him were not part of Beltrail's considerations. My team member found and destroyed this inside the offering box, the sole piece of evidence. Kishir casually held up a gold and silver horse statue, the evidence he had been clutching, and handed it over to Beltrail. I am grateful for your kindness. I hope you will find out who the culprit is and what their motive was for sabotaging the event and disturbing the Holy Festival week. This incident was not just a small accident, but a bold provocation in front of foreign diplomats. I hope you will solve it for the honor of the Temple of the Sun God. His tone was utterly gentle, but Beltrail's smile began to fade as he listened. I understand. Now, if you will excuse me, I am not well and must take my leave. Very well,